Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. A quick bit of history here. In 2009, a Lange Söhne of Germany launched the Zeitwerk, a constant force watch with a jumping time display, full digital, hours, tens of minutes, and minutes, and it won the GPHG Alligator in Geneva, effectively Best Picture at the Oscars of watchmaking. Well, 2 years later, in 2011, Lange launched this, the Zeitwerk Striking Time. This is a larger, audible striker of the hour and the quarter of the hour that includes all of the original ingredients of the first Zeitwerk, including the charismatic instantaneous time jump. So, larger than the original. This is 44 millimeters in diameter in rose gold. It is 13.4 millimeters thick, 52.1 millimeters from lug to lug with a 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. I can wear this comfortably, but you can see, particularly from over the top, the lugs are right out to the edge of my wrist, right out to the edge. You can also see down the barrel just how close a shave that is. And I always say when the lugs are over the edge of your wrist, the watch is too big. So if your wrist is smaller than 16 centimeters in circumference, you're going to want to go with the 42 millimeter Zeitwerk. You can see, though, that it's not super thick, and it does have a little bit of slope to its bezel, so it should fit underneath most dress cuffs. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see it better. In proportion to my hand and the rest of my arm, you can see it is a good match, fit-wise and size-wise. It's just an imposing thing. Taking a look at the strap and the buckle, let's start with the buckle. This is not a universal feature on Lange watches. Most of them, even high complications, include pin buckles, so having a full clasp adds to the weight and the substance, but it also makes it harder to accidentally drop your watch, so from a safety standpoint, that's great to see. The strap is a combination of reddish-brown, large rectangular scale, symmetrical scale alligator leather, and that type of large, symmetrical, rectangular scale gator is always the most expensive cut of the hide, so it's good to see it on a watch like this. A little bit of bolstering down the center, monotone stitch, folded edge, calfskin on the bottom in black, and you can see this is a Lange factory strap in outstanding condition. The case is typical Lange, though interestingly, they've opted against a contrasting finish on the mid-case, so it's all polished. The lugs, as characteristic of most Lange watches, are stepped out from the case band. The case is cylindrical with a domed bezel and a setback to the case back, so it looks a little bit thinner on the wrist. The crown is unique to the Zeitwerk, both in terms of how it looks and how it feels. It's particularly sharp in its knurling, so it's easy to grip. The feel of it with the immense resistance and the solid click is a real tactile pleasure, and it's one of the unique experiences in horology, winding the massive mainspring of a Zeitwerk. Now, the dial is comprised of a couple of bits. Everything that's light silver, so the top portion with the 36-hour power reserve indicator, the small seconds, and then the panels under the strikers, all those pale silver parts are made of sterling silver, so precious metal, and then printed and galvanized to create the colors and the graphics we see here. Now the gongs, these are the wire gongs, the anchors for the gongs, and the strikers themselves are made of steel. And you can see that they're beautifully decorated with a combination of satin and polish at the anchors, polish on the gongs. Then if you look carefully at the strikers, you can see they've been micro-beveled on their edges and black polished on their top. You can also see the bevels come together in sharp points, which is very difficult to do with regularity and precision. So the best of the best are finishing these components. What is black polish? I talk about that a lot. Well, you see how everything that's steel here looks like it's black? And that idea that you can only see the reflection from one angle is behind this whole notion of black polish. The metal turns black from any but the one reflective angle. Now there's more. We have this center time bridge, as it's called. It's actually part of the movement. So the frame for the time, as well as the root of the dial, all of that is this sort of golden hue. That's a nickel copper zinc alloy called German silver, and again, all of this is part of the movement of the watch. The copper gives it its golden hue. You can see the same material is used on all the bridges and the plates on the reverse side. So on the dial side, this has been satinated across its top, and then if you look carefully from the edge, you can see it too has been mirror beveled on its side. This is actually a pivot right here. This is part of the movement, a pivot for the two discs that display tens of minutes and minutes minutes. And it's the same material as the synthetic rubies. It's just, it is bare corundum without any impurities. Impurities are used to create color in these synthetic rubies. This is just the raw corundum material, so it's clear, so it matches the pale color of the dial. Now you can see when the strikers are in contact with the gongs, that actually means they're armed. And so you'll have a high-pitched strike for the quarter hours and then a deeper strike tone for the hour itself. If you want to disable this, you push the little trigger and you suspend the two strikers. That means they're not going to operate. If you don't want to wake yourself up or you don't want noise in a meeting, this is how you do that, how you guard against unnecessary chimes. Now, when you re-engage, it chimes. So if you want, you can just play with it and demonstrate it for your friends. You can hear it chime anytime you want. Keep in mind, though, this is the Zeitwerk striking time, not the minute repeater. So this chimes hours and quarter hours. It will not chime the time on command. Turning it all over, this is a version of the original L043 movement, so it's very large. It fills the case back and it uses its space well. You can see spectacular solarization on the wheels that are part of the winding mechanism, and if you look on the edge of all of these wheels, you'll find that the teeth have been micro-beveled, super difficult to achieve. From a mechanical standpoint, it's a manual wind. It's a 36-hour power reserve. It has a remontoir d'égalité constant force device, so there's very little fluctuation in the force applied to the escapement, and thus very little fluctuation in the amplitude and the rate. And the idea being that this is twofold. One, it prevents this huge mainspring from applying its raw force to the escapement, which would damage the escapement. And two, it ensures constant force so that, big picture, this watch remains a very good timekeeper. That's very uncommon with jumping time watches. But this watch uses a buffer in the form of two third wheels with a hairspring between them. And you can see that blue hairspring just between the two third wheels. Once a minute, this system will unlock. It's a second locking lever. You can see the little pinwheel that acts as an air brake. When the minutes jump, the energy goes downstream from the barrel. It's slowed by the air brake right here. And then this little locking lever unlocks and engages a train that puts the energy into that third wheel, which communicates the energy into the hairspring. So it's always going to be that hairspring that's driving the escapement, never the barrel directly. Now, it's like a great old pocket watch. It's got a huge free-sprung balance adjusted in 5 positions for precision. It beats away at 18,000 vibrations per hour, and you can see it has an overcoil hairspring, which is not a common feature on Lange watches. That's a major upgrade to assist in positional timekeeping stability. There's a lot of black polish on this case back. You can see we have black polished screws. We also have fire blued screws, and then we have a steel structure for the remontoir system that's been beveled on its side and satinated across its top. We have glasuta stripes across the bridges, engine-turned perlage on the base plate, freehand engraving on the cock for the escape wheel, which is also capped with a black polished steel cap, and then underneath the balance cock you can see more freehand engraving. There's a lot of beveling. You can see it when you turn the watch on its side on the edge of the bridges. And then if you look at the larger screws, you can really see that there is chamfer on their sides and their slots, so it's a beautiful thing to behold. Now, what else could I say about this movement? Well, this movement is absolutely sensational in that it is directly related to the one that won the GPHG. So you're holding a champion and you're wearing a champion when this is on your wrist. This is East German watchmaking at its absolute finest. This is watchmaking without any excuses. And it's why many often say that we need to open up the Holy Trilogy, the Holy Trinity of watchmaking. In Switzerland, it may be AP, Patek, and Vacheron, but with watches like this in the catalog, you have to consider Lange to be, at the very least, their equal. And of course, this timepiece, a landmark, one of the big 3 of Lange. If you're going to buy a Lange and just own one, you want a Zeitwerk, a Lange 1, or a Datograph. This is part of a different kind of trilogy. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.